tech has a dirty secret: e-waste. As handphones, laptops, and tablets become ubiquitous, e-waste is now the fastest growing stream of solid waste in the world, and it is hazardous.
Unfortunately, we're still putting poison into electronics, and it's not absolutely necessary to do it that way, it's just cheaper.
Why has Asia become a dumping ground for e-waste?
The Global South is recognized as the graveyard of Global North luxury items.
This is beyond the capacity of Thailand to manage it.
And will we be swamped by this toxic tide?
It is unthinkable as a mother that my own children will inhale toxic air.
Local law enforcement in Thailand is on a surprise raid. But they are not looking for contraband, drugs, or illegal workers. This inspection is for e-waste.
E-waste, it is the waste from the electric and electronic devices, which include some kind of toxic substances, for example, television, desktop computer, cell phone, refrigerator.
Located in Klong Kyu village in the Chonburi province, about a 2-hour drive from the capital Bangkok, this vast facility spans around 268,000 square meters. That's roughly the size of around 50 football fields. This factory was supposed to have suspended activity because of building and safety violations. But it did not take long for the authorities to find that processing of illegally dumped e-waste is still going on.
It's one of the fastest growing solid waste categories in the world. In 2019, the e-waste generation 54 million tons. This will be 75 million tons, the estimated generation in 2030. In addition, in 2050, it will be more than 100 million tons. In order to control the generation of these e-waste quantities or the excessive quantities, we must manage this waste stream effectively.
With e-waste quickly piling up, one region is generating more e-waste than others: Asia. Asia accounts for almost half of the world's e-waste.
60% of world population is in Asia. The more people we have, the more people generate waste. And people in Asia, we are also very tech savvy, And every item has got a limited lifespan. They are perfect at the beginning, but it will reach its end of life real soon, in no time. And it will contribute to generation of waste in any of the Asian countries that receive the waste.
In Thailand, a 2020 report by the National Research Council of Thailand showed the country generated about 428,000 tons of e-waste a year. That is enough to fill about 172 Olympic-sized swimming pools. In Southeast Asia, Singapore, Malaysia, and Thailand are the top 3 creators of e-waste on a per capita basis. But the biggest problem with e-waste is what it is made of.
ตรงนี้เรามีการทำการเกษตรนะครับไม่ว่าจะเป็นปลูกยูคานะครับปลูกไม้มะม่วงหิมพานต์ทำไร่อ้อยไร่มัน
43-year-old Surasak Aimsakon is a farmer with a plot of land next to the illegal recycling factory. But wastewater discharge from the facility has poisoned his crops.
ผลผลิตรู้สึกว่าลดลงนะครับมีการเหี่ยวแห้งเฉาตายอย่างที่เห็นนะครับก็คือต้นยูคาที่ยืนต้นตายเราได้มาไหว้ในช่วงเชงเม้งเดือนเมษาปี 65 นะครับก็ได้รับรสเกี่ยวกับของน้ำเพราะเราใช้ล้างจานอาบน้ำซักเสื้อผ้าก็คือรสชาติของน้ำเค็มเราก็เลย มาดูในพื้นที่ว่ามันเกิดอะไรขึ้นเค็มมาจากสาเหตุอะไรก็เห็นน้ำที่ไหลล้นจากบ่อนะครับบ่อทิ้งบ่อพักน้ำเสียของเขาไหลล้นเกินมาเราก็ทำไมมันเค็มนะเราก็เลยแจ้งอบต.เพื่อให้อุตสาหกรรมมาเก็บตัวอย่างเพื่อนำไปตรวจสอบทางอบต.นะครับกับอุตสาหกรรมไม่ได้แจ้งผลมาช่วงแรกทางชาวบ้านต้องไปติดตามความคืบหน้าเองผมได้ไปติดตามเมื่อประมาณช่วงกลางปีของ2566ครับถึงได้ทราบว่าค่าในน้ำมันเกินมาตรฐานนะครับแล้วก็เจอการกระทำความผิดนะครับของโรงงานก็เลยเรียกให้อุตสาหกรรมเข้ามาตรวจน้ำอีกรอบหนึ่งนะครับและทางเราก็ส่งให้กับหน่วยงานเอกชนตรวจด้วยถ้าจำคร่าวๆนะครับมีปลอดนะครับเหล็กตะกั่วสารหนูเป็นต้นครับ
Yeah, unfortunately, we're still putting poison into electronics. And it's not absolutely necessary to do it that way, it's just cheaper. So industry has not been pressured enough to go toxic free, but they could technologically. So we're putting still heavy metals, which have real serious health impacts, and organic chemicals like persistent organic pollutants, carcinogens, brominated flame retardants in the plastics and that sort of thing, which are toxic, which affect the endocrine system of people, cause cancer, cause reproductive health problems, etc. And these are still routinely put into our electronics.
Take the mobile phone in your pocket, for example. It probably contains mercury, cobalt, cadmium, and nickel. All of these are toxic if ingested in high quantities. Because of this, e-waste must be disposed of properly. But many developing countries do not have laws regulating the disposal of e-waste. Thailand is currently drafting guidelines to deal with waste from electrical and electronic equipment.
First, maybe in 10 years ago, we started to have a strategic plan. So we have to have like a law for the e-waste management because at that time, the current or exist law cannot deal with the e-waste properly. And we also found the illegal operation of the factory that use the e-waste as their raw material and they done proper like environmental management for their factory and like we found the contaminated sites around the factory and also the neighboring surrounding environment. So we talked to the Ministry of Commerce and used their law to like ban everything.
Meanwhile, as their soil and water are poisoned, residents of Klongkyu village have waged an ongoing battle to shut down the waste factory. But despite their efforts, the factory continues to not only operate but grow.
มีภาพทางอากาศนะคะเกี่ยวกับ Google Map สังเกตได้นะคะอันนี้ปี 2016 นะคะตรงนี้นะคะโซนที่เราสังเกตเห็นนะคะยังไม่มีอะไรเกิดขึ้นเนาะเนี่ยทั้งหมดนี้ต่อมาเนี่ยค่ะปี 2017 นะคะก็เริ่มมีขึ้นมานิดแล้วซึ่งในปีนี้นะคะ 2017 เนี่ยก็มีการขออนุญาตก่อสร้างเกี่ยวกับจดประกอบการโรงงานขึ้นมานะคะพอปี 2018 เนี่ยค่ะก็เริ่มขยายขึ้นมาใหญ่ขึ้นนะคะแล้วบริเวณรอบข้างนี่ก็มีการถมที่ขึ้นมาพอปี 2019 เห็นไหมคะหลายอาคารมากแล้วค่ะเริ่มเป็นโรงงานขนาดใหญ่ขึ้นพอ 2022 นะคะเต็มพื้นที่เรียบร้อยแล้วค่ะรวมถึงข้างเคียงและตรงนี้ค่ะมีการฝังกลบเกี่ยวกับขยะอิเล็กทรอนิกส์ขึ้นมาและในปี 2023 เห็นไหมคะเริ่มสร้างอาคารขึ้นมาแล้ว
I may call that it is like the bribery problems or the corruptions by the governmental officers, which is, in my opinion, it is very big issues in Thailand, particularly those related with industrial waste management. The attitude or the mindset of the Thai officers that they quite reserve themselves or cannot enforce regulations or the law, particularly those pollution control law, strictly to the operators. I used to talk with some officers. They said that it is very difficult to identify the guilties, or even if the guilties, they are not comfortable to enforce the law because it is easier for the industrial operators to file the lawsuits against the officers.
But even when officials want to enforce the law, it's a game of cat and mouse with the illegal operators.
Sometimes they change the owner or the location of the factory is the same, but it's not the same company. So it's different thing, different person.
But why did an illegal e-waste plant spring up here in the first place? The residents of Klongklu village have an idea.
ปาคิดว่าตรงนี้ค่ะคือบริเวณโลเคชันตรงนี้นะคะมันใกล้เคียงกับถนนเส้นตรงนี้ค่ะที่ขนานออกไปอะค่ะมันเป็นเส้นทางที่ลงสู่ท่าเรือแหลมฉบังได้ง่ายค่ะมันประหยัดในเรื่องของระยะทางค่าเดินทางจึงมาตั้งโรงงานในที่นี่เยอะขึ้นซึ่งแต่ก่อนในอดีตก็น้อยมากจริงๆปาคิดว่าน่าจะเป็นเรื่องของการส่งออกนำเข้าส่งออกมากกว่า
You see, for some countries in Southeast Asia, like Thailand, they are not just dealing with their own waste. It has also become an international dumping ground. In 2020, Thailand imported approximately 435,000 tons of e-waste. Of this, a mere 100,000 tons, less than a quarter, found its way to proper management and disposal channels.
In 2020, after the Chinese government banned waste import into China, we noticed that after that there are lots of plastic waste, electronic waste, and some types of waste flowing into Thailand. This is beyond the capacity of Thailand to manage it.
The world used to send most of its waste to China to be processed. But since 2018, Beijing banned the import of most waste, including e-waste. So, the e-waste had to go elsewhere.
The Global South is recognized as the graveyard of Global North luxury items. It implies that the e-waste movement and trade happens between regions, countries, and across borders.
In the US, the Basel Action Network is an NGO that works to tackle the waste problem. They have been tracking how e-waste ends up in Asia.
We have an Earth Eye tracker here developed by Basel Action Network, and today we'll be installing it into this Dell monitor. So, with that taken off, we'll see here the actual LCD panel. And typically these panels that we see will have various harmful chemicals in them. Mercury, for example, be one of those. Here we have the case for the LCD monitor. So we have our Earth Eye tracker here, and we do place it inside our case. And one great thing about LCD monitors and most e-waste is you'll always see some identification. So serial numbers that will allow us, if we were to go to the locations, to identify that, hey, this tracker went into this device. We assemble this back together. We have the shell once again.
The BAN will drop this monitor off at recycling points in the US and see if it gets recycled domestically or exported.
When we go to record the videos, look back at our data, look back at our evidence of this particular monitor, we can always go, hey, this tracker went into this monitor. It ended up in another part of the world where it shouldn't have.
But why is this waste being exported, since several states in the US and the EU countries have strict e-waste disposal and export laws?
In the countries that adopt strict e-waste legislative framework, e-waste recycling costs are very high. Thus, alternative destinations have been found. Southeast Asia, India, Africa. So these are the new destinations, and especially the less legislative frameworks in these countries drive e-waste imports to the region or the countries.
In the United States, we have more expensive waste management. We take more care to not pollute the environment than some countries are able to do. So these exporters are figuring out, okay, I can externalize those costs, have someone else pay the brunt of that damage with their health, with their polluted environment, what have you.
In Southeast Asia, Thailand and Malaysia are the two biggest recipients of e-waste, and although Thailand has banned such imports, they are still getting into the country. A possible source of the e-waste at the Klong Kiew factory.
จริงๆเราก็ตั้งข้อสงสัยนะคะว่าของพวกนี้มาจากไหนแล้วก็พยายามหาข้อมูลนะคะก็เลยต้องเข้าพื้นที่ไปเราก็ไปเจอเนี่ยค่ะเก็บหลักฐานสิ่งเหล่านี้ไว้เพื่อที่อยากจะให้หน่วยงานที่สามารถตรวจสอบได้นะคะเข้าไปตรวจสอบที่มาที่ไปเพราะว่ามีผู้เชี่ยวชาญแนะนำมาว่าถ้าเกิดได้เนี่ยค่ะท้ายตู้คอนเทนเนอร์เนี่ยเขาจะมีเลขรหัสต่างๆที่บอกได้ว่าที่มาที่ไปมาจากตรงไหนเราก็เลยเข้าไปเก็บหลักฐาน
Like now, I think we have the port and the custom office at the port, and I think that the frontier that they can like stop. They're gonna have like a backlist company, and we also have training for custom officer, environmental inspector, or shipping agent also, who part of the shipment import-export thing. We also teach them how to prevent the illegal shipment.
But still, e-waste that the BAN has tracked has ended up in Thailand.
So in countries like Thailand, there is a conflict between one part of the government which wants business, another part of government wants to do the environmental right thing globally and fulfill their treaty obligations and all that. So that conflict, unfortunately, a lot of times the environmental ministries lose out in the internal battle.
I think Thailand really needs transparency, good governance, and anti-corruption. Environmental degradations problems seriously worsening because of the corruption. The whole cycle support corruption by the officers and by the investors.
But the problem in Asia is not just an imported one. Much of it is our own making.
Welcome to TechNav, and I'm Joshua C. Today we're gonna unbox the latest Oppo Reno 11 5G.
30-year-old Joshua C. is a tech content creator in Malaysia.
So now let's open up the box, and what we have inside is this. Okay.
He usually reviews at least 2 gadgets a week, staying on top of the latest releases and trends.
Before this, I was a lifestyle content creator, but I was very passionate in tech stuff. So that's why I came into TechNav and worked as a tech reviewer.
And things could get busier for Joshua. Asia has the fastest growing middle class, from 2 billion in 2020 to 3.5 billion people by 2030. And with that comes increasing demand for the latest electronics.
Malaysians, we always want newest, latest gadget, and then we can brag about, and then we can use the latest stuff in front of our friends, in front of our family.
They may equate it with some level of social status, or that is a proof of their achievement in their life. So how do these relate to e-waste? In relation to that, they have no problem in ditching whatever they have, even though it's still in perfect condition, working condition, just to get the latest technology available. So that in a way will contribute to the volume of e-waste.
But manufacturers also share some blame. A Washington Post investigation showed that some modern gadgets are made to stop working within 3 to 4 years, as their batteries are designed to be irreplaceable.
So usually the new phone gadget that we buy is around 2 to 3K RM, and for that kind of gadget, usually the battery lifespan is around 2 to 3 years. So every 2 to 3 years, they will need to change a new gadget because of the battery lifespan.
It is alleged that some companies produce electronic devices with reduced lifespan. That is one side of the story. Then the second thing is there are some devices are difficult to repair or repair costs are high.
According to the 2020 Global E-Waste Monitor report, Malaysia generated 364,000 tons of e-waste in 2019. This keeps 39-year-old Muhammad Tariq Al-Fatri very busy. He runs ERTH, or Electronic Recycling Through Heroes, an e-waste recycler in Malaysia.
All the devices that Earth collects are actually graded into 3 grades. Grade A, reusable, Grade B, repairable, or Grade C, recyclable. So this is an example of Grade B equipment. It means that it has been tested. Either it is working, but it has some missing components, like for example, hard drive that has been shredded due to data privacy concerns. So it is not in a condition that makes it Grade A, meaning that it can be sold as a reusable item. Rather, it will either be harvested for spare parts or it will be repaired and sold as a Grade B through our B2B refurbished partners.
But the bulk of what ERTH receives, about 65%, are Grade C. They are not in a condition to be repaired or resold.
Most of the devices that are, let's say, older than 5 or 6 years old, even if they are in a repairable condition, usually the market for them market demand is very weak, and that's why most of the time we will just put it as a Grade C and send it for material recovery. So this is our Grade C computers. So it means that they are neither reusable nor repairable, or they are too old to actually be repaired, where it's going to be crushed down and smelted into metal ingots. You can find some gold, palladium, you can find, of course, copper, you can find some aluminium, steel, those kinds of metals.
Typically, to recover metals, electronic components are milled or crushed into fine particles. The reusable metals are then recovered through a heat and chemical process.
There's a lot of issues when it comes to this kind of a conventional processing, which is basically like, since the milling process is usually very highly energy intensive, so it costs a lot and it is not even environmentally very viable.
At the Monash University, researchers are finding ways to reduce the cost of recycling.
To avoid the milling step in the conventional process, what we try to do is we try to cut the big board into smaller PCBs, like 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter boards. So what we do is we already put the cut out 1 centimeter PCBs into the solvent here. This is an organic solvent.
By using this solvent, energy costs can be reduced by 20 to 40%.
So basically what it is doing is it's separating the metals and the non-metals just by in one process itself. Then what we can do is we can use some separation techniques to remove the copper out.
In Malaysia, the recoverable metals and plastics and e-waste could be worth $3 billion. Yet, according to the United Nations University, only 15% of waste is recycled in Asia, compared to 35% in Europe. Though Malaysia fares better.
Right now, Malaysia stands at around 30%. So let's first set the record straight that Malaysia is actually doing much better than the rest of the world. Now, are we satisfied and we should stop at here? Absolutely not. There is still 70%, so there is still a long way to go. But I think the good news is that we are seeing very good regulatory initiatives that are supposed to accelerate the rate of electronic recycling in the country. So I think that Malaysia is well on its way by 2030 to reach an e-waste recycling rate upwards of 50%.
So, what happens to the e-waste that does not make it to proper recycling facilities? It's the end of another long day for 56-year-old Somsak Pakuntot. Home is a makeshift shack under a highway in Tanong Paya Thai district in Bangkok, where he lives with his wife and 2-year-old granddaughter. Working as an informal collector, he gathers various types of e-waste to be resold.
หาซื้อตามหมู่บ้านตามคอนโดมั่งอพาร์ตเมนต์มั่งโรงแรมมั่งแล้วแต่ใครให้ไปตรงไหนไปหมด
Informal collectors tend to collect other solid waste items such as plastic, cardboards, and scrap iron. Since they offer door-to-door collection services, their collection efficiency is quite high. In terms of collection, e-waste collection, informal collector services are quite vital. What normally happens is these informal collectors sell their collected e-waste to informal recyclers. That is how they maintain the supply chains in the informal sector.
According to a study by United Nations University, only 15% of Asia's e-waste is collected and recycled, and much of it by the informal sector.
The formal industry would go for formal kind of e-waste management, but the medium SME, small and medium enterprise, it will cost a lot to pay for the transporter, for the e-waste treatment operator. Maybe financially it's not very viable for them. That is why this informal sector comes in.
ครับตอนนี้กำลังทำอะไรอยู่ครับเนี่ย
กระแอร์เนี่ยตัดหัวทองเหลืองออกเอาเหล็กตัวนี้ออก
แอร์ตัวนี้นี่รับมาราคาเท่าไหร่ครับ
ซื้อก็มา400
เราคิดว่าตัดขายเนี่ยเราจะได้ประมาณเท่าไหร่
ก็700ได้
700ครับเอาไปส่งที่ไหนครับเนี่ย
ส่งร้านทั่วไปร้านรับซื้อของเก่านี่แหละ
แล้วปกตินอกจากแอร์เนี่ยป๋าได้อุปกรณ์ไฟฟ้าอะไรบ้างครับ
ก็มีตู้เย็นโทรทัศน์พวกนี้ได้มาเรื่อยๆ
แล้วอะไรที่ทำให้เราได้ขายได้ราคาดีสุด
ก็อันนี้แหละของแดงนี่แหละดีที่สุดเลย
But making a living out of recycling e-waste comes with some risks.
Since personal protective equipments are not used, physical hazards could happen. The hazardous metals such as lead, cadmium, and mercury, it could lead to cancer and many more health hazards, but it depends on the level of the exposure and the type of the recycling activities carried out by these informal recyclers. I know that some recyclers, especially the informal one, they carry out the open acid bath based recycling processes or open burning of copper cables. So in these sort of processes, there is a high possibility of toxic chemical ingestion.
Despite these health risks, Pakuntot seems unfazed.
ไม่เห็นเป็นอะไรก็รื้อมาก็ใส่ถุงมือบ้างไม่ใส่บ้างก็ไม่เห็นเป็นอะไรก็หามาจนครบ30 ปีไม่เคยวิตกอะไรเลยกับสารอะไรนั่นเพราะว่าเราไม่เคยเราสัมผัสมันถึงมันไม่เป็นอะไรหรอกแล้วล้างมืออาบน้ำมันก็พวกสบู่หน่อยมันก็หายแล้ว
Meanwhile, in Malaysia, some of the collection is done by small companies. 28-year-old Muhammad Kamil bin Muhammad Noor runs Kamil Plastic Trading, a scrap collecting company. It's a labor-intensive process.
We collect multiple e-waste, like example CDs, wire, then we will collect some e-board e-waste and mixed grade wires, even also printer, keyboard, then CPU. With this e-waste, we will dismantle it. Over here, like all the printers, all the TVs, we will dismantle plastics, the metal, the board, circuit, everything separately for we recycle it back to another processor.
Kamil is not allowed to process the e-waste he collects. Currently, Malaysia only has 60 licensed e-waste recovery facilities.
We hope that the government can give us some loans and even make it easier for the license we to get and process the things. Because it's a bit tough to get the e-waste license for processing. If we get loans from the banks, we can buy some machines, heavy machines and some dismantling machine. So we will be much easier for dismantling, dispose the items.
The intermediates plays a very important role. For an example, when it comes to e-waste and so on, yeah, they do the pre-sorting until it goes to the final recycler, okay, or final processing parties. When it comes to sorting, in Malaysia or many parts of Southeast Asia region, they are still doing manual recycling or manual sorting, I would say. So that requires a lot of manpower. Automated sorting machines will play an important role to increase efficiency as well as productivity.
But despite the efforts of both the formal and informal sectors, only a fraction is recycled. Much of our e-waste still ends up here. Malaysia sends an average of about 38,000 metric tons of solid waste to more than 100 landfills daily.
The minute it enters the waste stream, it will already lose like up to 90% of its value, either through contamination, through physical damage, theft, scavenging.
Firstly, we lose valuable resources once e-waste ends up in landfills, for example, gold, copper and silver. And secondly, the metal leaching happens over time once e-waste item sit in landfills. This leads to soil, groundwater and surface water pollution.
What's more, Malaysia's landfills are running out of space. The country's existing landfills are projected to be full by 2050. As such, the country is turning to another solution, one that hasn't been well received. These are the residents of Batu Arang. It is a former coal mining town in Malaysia's Selangor state, some 50 kilometers northwest of the city of Kuala Lumpur. They are protesting the government's plans to build incinerators near the town.
We are standing over here, and this is open cast 9, and across the lake there will be a proposed site for incinerator. Before that, we only got to know there will be only one incinerator, which will carry 2,400 tons per day of municipal or solid waste. Some of us attended a dialogue with the project proponent. After the dialogue, we were shocked to find out there will be 2 more incinerators to be built.
Esther is part of a citizens' action group that has been opposing the construction of an incinerator in Batu Arang.
The main issue is the health, because incinerator need to maintain 150 degrees Celsius and above. If it's below, dioxin will emit through fly ash and bottom ash. It is unthinkable as a mother that my own children will inhale toxic air from Monday to Friday during school hours.
Perhaps Esther is right to worry. According to the World Health Organization, burning e-waste can release toxic fumes. The government has assured residents that the incineration process is safe and will not have a negative impact on the environment. Some still have doubts.
We have communicated with authorities, and they said they are waiting for what we call environmental impact assessment report to be out. And this assessment report actually is done by a consultant appointed by the management company. Actually will be operating or would be operating the incinerator. I hope that the consultant would do a just report, otherwise we just have to call in an external consultant to do a report and compare.
With recycling facilities limited and burying and burning potentially hazardous, what can we do about our growing gadget garbage? Off the southeast coast of Sulawesi, Indonesia, lies Wawoni. The island, roughly the size of Singapore, is dotted with sleepy fishing and farming villages. But recently, nickel mines have disrupted Wawoni's tranquility.
Sebelum ada tambang, laut ini jernih sekali dan di sini tempat anak-anak itu bermain ketika air pasang, tetapi setelah perusahaan tambang PT GKP itu mulai masuk dan melakukan eksploitasi nikel di Pulau Wawoni, karang-karang ini, bahkan air sungai ini mulai berwarna coklat.
Saat ini yang terjadi di Wawoni itu, beberapa kasus kami dapatkan dari masyarakat, mereka sudah mulai mendapatkan kulit mereka itu gatal. Nah, ini bisa saja disebabkan dari sumber mata air itu yang sudah tercemar, yang mereka gunakan sehari-hari untuk minum, untuk masak, untuk mandi itu sudah tercemar. Dan ini bisa saja menjadi penyebab utama.
Nickel is an important component in electronics. It is a key material in batteries. With the consumer electronics market growing about 6.6% each year, there has been an increase in the mining of nickel and other metals. According to a report by the UN Environment Programme, metal extraction has experienced a more than threefold increase since 1970, from 2.6 billion to an estimated 9.6 billion tons in 2020. But these resources aren't endless.
We are just squandering precious resources. The Earth doesn't have a lot of metal resources that are easily accessible. If we don't really ramp up the recycling through a proper circular economy, through a responsible circular economy, we're going to be very primitive very soon.
Right now, most businesses operate under a take, make, waste mode. Resources are extracted from the earth, made into products, and disposed of at the end of their shelf life. But the growing piles of e-waste could be an opportunity to break this cycle.
The circular economy is a practice of, maximizing the resource that people or us are using or implementing in our daily life and also in the business operation. And to us, the circular economy is how do we maximize the resource while minimize the waste generation.
Advanced Info Service, or AIS, is Thailand's largest mobile phone operator. The company has been making efforts to be more sustainable using the principles of the circular economy.
This is the box that make from the recycled paper. And as of now, we have 2,500 boxes throughout the country. People can easily drop their old phone or their earplug or the mobile gadget. They can drop it here. And the partner will then collect these items and then bring it to the company that we are working with. So the team will extract those precious material and then gone through the procedure to make it going back into the economy or refurbish into recycle, material again.
But for the circular economy to work, it will require the partnership of businesses and consumers. Most users currently do not recycle the electronic products. The main reasons? Inconvenience and lack of awareness.
I think they will just feel very troublesome to send all the e-waste to the e-waste recycling center because one is very far. They just want to save up the trouble and save up the money so that they just easier lah, just throw it into the rubbish bin.
At the same time, there could be inertia among consumers to buy refurbished products. A 2019 study in America showed only 1 in 10 shoppers would buy second-hand electronics.
When it comes to circular economy, it is first and foremost is the mindset. Because everyone wants to have a brand new kind of equipment and products. And sometimes when it comes to second-hand or branded products and so forth, they have this judgmental feeling that recycled content, is it quality, the quality is good enough and so on. But now I would say there are pretty good standards, industrial standards where they need to be followed by certain, for certain grade of products and so on. Dell is already using 80% recycled content. And they use the recycled content that is being collected from their own product themselves. So that follows the standards.
As for manufacturers, they will have to build products that are more sustainable.
Now the challenges will be sometimes when it comes to certain types of products, because not all kind of product can move into the circularity right away. It will take some time. And availability of technology. When it comes to collection, recycling and so on. So not all products can be recycled easily as well, or maybe recovered.
I think it has to start with the commitment. And the commitment has to come from the owner of the business or the board of directors. When you ask people to do something, but you don't provide them the tools, how do they gonna do? And another thing is, the business has to, set a very clear measurement impact. What do you want to measure, step by step, and walk your talk.
Currently, many companies design their products to eventually fail, to maximize profits when customers must upgrade them. This is known as planned obsolescence.
We might need to spend a lot more on better quality equipment, better quality electronic devices, but it should have a longer lifespan. So it will be in a working condition longer before it turns into waste.
Creating products that are easy to upgrade or repair could be a way to cut out waste. One such example is Fairphone, a modular smartphone. Fairphone's phone is easy to open and repair, making it last longer.
Well, modular electronics is one example of how to make things last longer. Longevity is key. So when you need a new battery, you put in a new battery. When you need a new monitor, you put in a new monitor. You need a new GPS, you put in a new GPS. Really easy to do. The consumer can do it. It is a great solution. I'm glad to see them taking off here in this continent. But it's just one idea.
Sustainable companies like Fairphone only represent a very small part of the overall smartphone market, with Apple and Samsung still being the dominant makers in the industry. While both companies have made efforts to be more sustainable, both also continue to release new phones and products. E-waste is the fastest growing solid waste stream in the world. From 2010 to 2019, there was an approximately 60% surge in the production of electronic waste. By 2030, the volume of e-waste generated globally could surpass 74 million tons. And if the richer countries continue to export the e-waste to Asia, or Asian countries do not increase capacity to manage e-waste, then the consequences will be disastrous.
And the future does not look good for e-waste consumption. The whole move toward the Internet of Things, where we have electronic components embedded in everything, in our walls and our furniture, every part of our car, so that, you know, we can monitor everything by the internet. That means, how are we going to collect that stuff? That hardware is going to go out there, and what is the collection mechanism? The latest study shows that 9 million people a year are dying from pollution. Electronic waste processing in countries like Malaysia and Thailand, the way they do it, that's part of that quotient of 9 million people that are dying. That also impacts the ecosystem, the groundwater, everything.
The higher income people, right, they have ability to purchase these electric and electronic devices, and then they are the person who generate e-waste, to the society. But then without the regulations, right, so the poorer or the best income people, they have to taking care of all this waste from the rich people.
Several countries in Southeast Asia, like Malaysia and Thailand, recognize the growing problem of e-waste. They are drafting laws to address the issue. But until then, as the gadget graveyard grows, the villagers in Klong Kiew continue to worry about their poisoned land.
อย่างที่ปาบอกนะไม่ใช่แค่การหมดโอกาสในการใช้ประโยชน์ในที่ดินในเรื่องของการทำเกษตรหรือว่าการเลี้ยงสัตว์ต่างๆในอนาคตที่ดินเหล่านี้ก็อาจจะไม่มีราคาไปแล้วก็ได้ถูกไหมคะแล้วก็อีกประการหนึ่งก็คือในเรื่องของสุขภาพที่ปาบอกมาเนี่ยทั้งหมดเนี่ยเป็นค่าโลหะหนักที่น่าตกใจมากค่ะว่าเกินทีนึงเป็นหลายร้อยเท่าแต่หน่วยงานที่เห็นผลเหล่านี้มาตั้งแต่ปี65-66แล้วทำไมยังนิ่งเฉยไม่ทำอะไรเลยทั้งที่สิ่งเหล่านี้กำลังเกิดขึ้นอย่างมากในประเทศไทย